Well, in this podcast, we explore the trials and tribulations of starting a business and being an entrepreneur. I'm your host, Jason Manarinter.
And I'm your co-host, David Liu. And this is Behind the Business.
Okay. Yeah, you guys are good to go, man.
We're good to go?
You guys are good to go.
Man, I feel like a celebrity right now.
Yeah,
Yeah.
a good setup.
Yeah, the way that when you... Well, you guys do headphones too.
Yeah.
right? But doesn't sound like this.
No.
No, yeah. So every time I bring somebody into the studio just to show them around, I get them to sit here for like 5 minutes and I have a straight on conversation with them, because as soon as you get them on the mic and the headphones, they think they're on the radio.
Yeah.
And they just don't stop talking, right?
It's weird because people are scared. Like they're not used to hearing their own voice.
Right.
And they're like kind of like nervous or shy about it because they're like, fuck, my voice sounds so weird.
Right. Yeah. And then like when they, at first they're a little bit uncomfortable because they don't like their own voice. But when you hear your voice on this thing, it's kind of just like, oh man, like sometimes they don't stop talking. Yeah.
That's awesome.
Yeah, it is.
Yeah, should we just dive right into it? Or, I guess so, right?
Just jump right into it.
Okay, let's do it. Well, first of all, Brian, you got a really deep, manly voice.
Yeah, I know. I mean, it's even worse because like I got sick 3 months ago, got laryngitis.
Yeah.
I lost my voice.
Okay.
And it's like slowly coming back. But even like before it was like pretty bad.
Yeah.
I was getting like all these Batman jokes and shit like that.
Well, it sounds
Yeah,
like
it's a bit more raspy than it was before.
Oh yeah, definitely. Yeah.
yeah.
One person, like as soon as somebody called me Batman, they're just like, "Where's the Joker?" And I'm just like, "Oh my god." So I just
It's a
went
good
with
voice,
it.
though. It's a very good voice.
Good radio
First
voice.
time, yeah. You two got the radio voices. Man. So, like,
Sometimes I just want it to go. Yeah, it's just doing that.
Okay.
Yeah, it's good though.
Okay, sounds good.
well, yeah. Welcome to episode 22. And for those of you listening, this is the first time we're actually, I feel, like in a legit podcast studio, and we got the cameras hooked up here.
Yeah,
which is,
cameras are rolling.
which is the first time. I'm like kind of weird with all these cameras right now, but it's all good. We're gonna be talking with Brian Pham today, and Brian Pham, his company is called Woaw Productions, and what you do is photos and digital media.
Yeah, photo, video, digital media, just make content. I guess now that we have a studio, it's more like production. Like I'm doing more productions and stuff like that. So
Yeah. We're currently in their studio, Luma.
Yeah,
It's a pretty
we're
sick
in
spot.
their studio.
Yeah.
yeah,
which
yeah.
is cool. And why'd you set up this podcast studio? Just before we start.
So basically, I was partners with another group. We do digital art, and then I was partners with another group, and we did podcast. And we had about a year ago, we started this turnkey podcast business where this board, this table, a nice small room with a bunch of mics, was set up for people to just come in, bring their memory card, hit record, and right away they have a podcast that they can produce or they can publish for like little next to nothing. It's all audio, but that's the service that we're providing.
Where were you 22 episodes ago? Like this is when we started, but
That's a good question.
Yeah.
I didn't even know you guys had a podcast.
Yeah, we kind of were discussing about it like maybe a month ago because we needed some video content, and I was like, I should talk to Brian because he makes some pretty crazy videos, right? So, and I feel like we didn't even know that this was a thing until we came here last week.
Yeah. I mean,
we came here for video production
Yeah,
for YYC Real Estate Group.
and then you guys saw that we had a podcast room.
Exactly.
Yeah.
and now we're here.
I saw what you did there. So
So I literally smashed those two groups together and put it all in one place, which made it was a no-brainer in my mind. We just kind of like coagulated all our assets, had it all in one place. And instead of me traveling to 3 different places in the city, I just have to come here every day, right?
totally. Is it just you, or
No, so it's me and 3 other partners
Okay.
that take care of the studio portion of everything. and everybody has a different job. Some people is in charge of sales, some people is charge of business development, business admin, and project management, and the other person's a tech specialist. He's my go-to guy. Like if I need to figure something out, I'm just like, hey, I need to figure this out, and he does it.
Was he just in here?
No, he's Ivan. I don't think you guys met him, but he's kind of like my go-to how to, like, I have a problem, he fixes it. Yeah. It's like every crew, every business needs one of those guys. Yeah, because he's just like right now I'm having like storage issues, right? Like I've got like terabytes of stuff. I have storage issues, and we just hired a new editor, and so the editor needs to access my storage, but I need to access at the same time. We can't sit at the same computer, and we're not transferring files to a hard drive, moving it over so that he can edit and I can edit too. So now we're figuring out a way to create like this one storage area that we can both access at the same time. He's figuring that all out.
You're talking about digital storage.
Digital storage, yeah. Not physical storage, yeah.
Tell us about your company, what you guys do, more in depth about it, because and how did you guys get into that?
So my personal company, it's just, I decided, like, I started in video, then I started taking a bunch of photos, and then, I mean, I think a lot of people go this route. They love what they do, and they want to make money in what they do, right?
So you're shooting videos for what, like companies?
Commercial, real estate. I've been on a bunch of like indie feature film sets. A lot of that stuff's volunteer work, but like you learn so much sitting on like a feature film set that knowledge base that you get from being there, it's priceless, right? So I'd love to get more into like the creative storytelling kind of thing, but at the same time, we all got to make money, right?
Yeah, exactly. Because like your background's actually in oil and gas, right?
That's correct. Yeah.
Yeah. So what were you doing pre like the photography and also the videos and stuff?
Yeah.
Like
how'd you get into this?
Yeah. So before that, I went to school at SAIT for the petroleum engineering program. That's the same one you took, right? Got out, took my first job that was handed to me there. Like at that time, it was 2014. People were literally handing me jobs. I had one guy at one company. He was just like, go to our website and pick whatever you want. Everything's like plus 15 years experience. I'm just like, you just want me to pick whatever I want. You're going to give it to me. He's like, yeah. I'm like, oh, I don't know if I can do that, man. Like he was literally just handing me whatever position I wanted, right?
Yeah.
That was on the website. And I didn't realize that at the time, but in retrospect, I mean, in the oil and gas days, that's what people were literally doing. They were just they're basically giving money away, right?
Totally.
Yeah, I took my first job, worked out in the field for 4 years, and then...
How old were you?
I was, for 2014. I don't even want to disclose my age, actually. I'm just kidding. 2014, I'm now 38, so 6 years ago.
32.
32, yeah.
Okay. So you just finished school at age 32 and then start your petroleum engineer.
I was a field operator.
Field operator, okay.
Yeah, working in the field. 7 days on, 7 days off, worked half the year. Only half the year, made six figures. Like, it was sweet. Like, I just got out of school, man.
Yeah.
Like, that, I couldn't ask for a better job, right?
Totally.
Yeah, actually, to this day, I'll tell people, like, I actually love that job. Like, I love working with the people. I didn't really like working in Peace River, Alberta, but the people were great. The money was great. And I only worked 6 months out of the year, right?
That's crazy, yeah.
I've worked up there before too.
Yeah.
It's not fun. It's very far.
Yeah, it's far, and I mean, everything closes at 6 p.m. And so if you want to go get like your tire changed after work, it's like you got to wait till your days off, and I don't want to be there on my days off. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But with that, you also got to travel a lot because for this the 1 week off or 1 week on, like you got to travel a lot during that time too, because I saw that you were traveling. Yeah.
So the week off, for the most part, I would come home to Calgary, and if I wasn't home in Calgary, I was somewhere else, right? That was what was great about it.
All right, and then you're working there for how long? And when did you
I
make
worked
that
there for
transition?
4 years. You know, you actually have a pretty sweet voice on the mic too.
Do I?
Yeah, I do.
I feel like I sound like a kid or something.
Oh, as soon as you came in, I was just like, oh man, like that's sweet.
Thanks. No one said that before.
I worked there for 4 years. Yeah, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
And why did you leave? What was that transition that made you switch?
Yeah, so that's another long story too, but I'll try to make it really quick. So 2014, 6 months after that, economic downturn, everything hit rock bottom. I was lucky to have a job, but I'm a frontline worker, right? They don't get rid of people who pull oil out of the ground, right? Stayed there for 4 years, but essentially when I went into that job, I was only supposed to be there for 6 months to a year, right? And then I was supposed to come back to Calgary, sit in a nice, probably a cubicle, to be honest with you, wear like a button-up shirt, maybe a tie sometimes, and like actually do engineering work, right?
Yep.
But because the economic downturn happened, there was no reason for them to pull me back as a production engineer, right? Because we weren't growing as a business. There was no new wells. We weren't getting more oil. We were just pulling up whatever oil we had left out of the ground. So there was no need for my education back in the office, right? So I stayed there for 4 years, but I didn't mind it, right? I was making good money, right?
Totally.
So what happened in 4 years was one of my friends passed away from colon cancer. At the time, she was 35, and I was 35 too. And this girl, she was nothing short of amazing. Mormon, didn't smoke, didn't drink, didn't do drugs, ran the Spartan race every single year, you know, just like the last person you thought that was going to pass away, right? Got diagnosed with colon cancer 2 weeks after that, gone. And
That's crazy.
yeah, it's crazy. And for whatever reason, like that hit me really hard. I was out on the field in my truck. Somebody messaged me, told me, and I just broke down. Like I completely broke down. Up until that point, anybody that has ever passed away in my life was kind of like onset. Like they had a disease, they had cancer. I knew they were going to eventually leave. But this person was like in my life one day and out my life the other. And so that's the reason why I attribute it to being hard for me at that moment in time, is because they just disappeared, right?
So what were you thinking when you heard the news?
Well, I started crying. I was very emotional. And then I went to go talk to my team lead and asked him and told him about it. Like I wasn't getting work done or anything. Like I couldn't get work done. And he's just like, you know what, take the rest of your days off, go home, fix it, or do whatever you have to do. And then when you're ready, come back. I just left for one day, went to her funeral and came back. But as soon as I came back, work wasn't the same anymore. Right? I was pulling gauges and like tweaking things and like doing my normal oil field stuff. But I actually cared about why I was doing it, or if I was doing it for a reason, if that makes sense, right?
Purpose.
Yeah, purpose, exactly. So, you know, out of school, first job, great paying job. I was pretty much like a rocket, right? I was moving, right? Planning to work out there for a year, come back to Calgary, get a nice desk job, you know, use my education. But then the economy tanked, and I let the economy be the reason why I stopped growing. And I didn't like that, right? Well, my mind didn't like that, right? I was okay with it until my friend passed away, and I realized that I wasn't growing professionally or personally in any way whatsoever.
And you had no control over it.
And I had no control, right? And so work was never the same. I was like instantaneously depressed, didn't do the work to the best of my ability. Not that I did it to the best of my ability anyway. Don't take that out of there. Just kidding. I was sufficient. Yeah. And then, and I just didn't want to be there. Went inside the office to my team lead, because he was the person that I directly reported to every single day. I was just like, hey, listen, I got to talk to you about something. He's like, you're going to quit. And I'm like, how did you know? He's just like, you've never been the same since you came back.
Oh.
Yeah. I was like, oh, okay. He's like, I'm like, okay. Like, I didn't know, like apparently I'm very transparent, right?
Yeah.
But,
body language shows, right?
Yeah.
The way you are.
Yeah.
For sure.
Yeah, so he's just like, yeah, just let me know when you want to go, when you, like, you know, how it's going to be. Decided that I was going to start traveling the world a lot more, right? And so I worked like 3 months straight and just stacked mad cash.
So this is like when you're about 36.
No, this was probably 2016, 2016, I think.
Okay. 35.
2017. Let's say
3 years ago.
2017.
35. Yeah.
Yeah, stacked a bunch of cash and then just traveled.
Yeah.
I took off for the winter, went out for 3 months, never came back.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Yeah.
That's funny because that kind of actually happened to me too. Like when I was working in oil and gas, like it was actually, I was on a job and this was at like Synovus and I was working on this service rig.
Great company, by the way.
This guy almost dropped a piece of equipment on me, like a 1,000 pound, like the tongs for the rig. And like at that instant, it actually made me reflect on my life. Like, why am I up here? Like, is this really worth me dying like on the job? Like had I been 2 meters in front of where it was and this guy wasn't even looking when he was handling this piece of equipment, like I would have been paralyzed or dead for sure. So after that, I kind of had like this thought in my mind, like, why am I here? Like I'm literally working for this company that I don't really care for. Like it doesn't really have any growth for me. And that's actually what made me leave the oil and gas industry too.
Crazy.
Yeah, man.
Yeah, that's crazy.
It's nuts.
It's the oil and gas changers.
Yeah, it's the money, right?
Yeah.
Like it's hard to say no to the money, and it doesn't matter what industry you're in. If you're making money and you're making decent money, then it's hard to say no to that, period.
For sure. And so you left for 3 months.
Yeah.
And was this kind of you trying to find yourself?
Yeah, so I left so at the funeral of my friend, there was a slideshow there, and I didn't know a lot about her in terms of, the life that she had lived, right? But there's a slideshow there, and her slideshow, she'd been to like 30 plus different countries, same age as me. And like when I compared myself to her, I've been like to 5, right? And in her slideshow, she was like at the pyramids, on camels, canals, boats, like just all this stuff. And I was just like thinking in my head, I'm sad that she's gone, but she lived a pretty quality life, right? Not to say that it could have been better, but just recently I heard this quote that, it's not about the amount of years that you spend in on this earth, in this life. It's about the quality of years that you have, right? That matters, right?
Totally.
Yeah. And so, I mean, still sad, but it put a little bit more relief on my reasoning behind why she was gone. Is that, she lived a good life. And her sister told me that, right up until her death, that she passed away, she was just like really content, like with her parents, telling her parents that it's okay, telling her sister, and she didn't have to do that. She was going to die, right? She didn't have to care about whether her family or her friends were going to be okay. She genuinely was saying that it was okay.
Yeah.
Like she was ready. You know what I mean?
She had a happy life.
Yeah.
She was already living life to like the full potential.
Exactly.
And
Exactly.
If you're living every day like that, then you have nothing to regret.
Exactly. Yeah. So, in that respect, I decided that it was time for me to go see more of the world. Yeah.
Where'd you go?
So the first year, I went to the Philippines. The second year, I went all Southeast Asia. And this is the first time I ever traveled alone too, right? I don't know if you've ever traveled alone before, but it's
you get a lot when you travel alone.
Oh yeah, you get a lot. You figure out a lot about yourself, who you are, like the people that you want to talk to, how you do things, how you think, like all this stuff, right? So the first time I went to the Philippines, the second time I went to Southeast Asia, and I did like 5 different countries in Southeast Asia: Hong Kong, Japan, Vietnam. It's so long ago I can't even remember. Australia. But the second time I went to Southeast Asia, being a first-time solo traveler, I didn't feel like I did it right, because you learn so much about how to travel. So the year after that, I just did it again. Yeah.
By yourself again.
Yeah, by myself again.
And when you
Sweet.
said travel, were you traveling this whole year? Like,
No,
Oh,
the first year, the first year was about a month and a half that I did. The second year was 3 months, and the third year was 3 months. Yeah, so I guess to fill in some gaps there, when I came back from my first solo trip, I needed a job, right? I needed to make money, right?
yeah.
So I asked one of my good friends who was manager of a locating company. They're the guys that locate for Alberta One Call. Yeah, and I was just like, hey, like, I need a job. I actually asked this guy before I even quit my last job, to be honest with you, because there's no way I was going to leave a 6-figure job.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Without knowing that I'm gonna go travel the world and come back and like not make money, right?
Have nothing. Yeah.
So as soon as I told him, I'm like, yo, like I hate my job. Not that I hate it, but I'm depressed, and I need a change. I'm like, but I'm not going to quit my job unless you can guarantee me that you're going to give me another job. And he's like, 100%. So that's when I walked into the office and I quit. Right.
yeah.
So came back, worked that locating job, by not like a career job by any means, but it was new, it was fresh. I did it, and it's a seasonal job, right? Like if you think about construction, a lot of the construction booms and starts happening, whether it's like road construction, home construction, driveway, fence, backyard, deck, tree, happens as soon as the snow melts, right? So the snow melts, and like my job's booming up until the snow comes back. And so when the snow comes back, my work goes from like, 10, 12-hour day down to like 2 hours a day. And so I was just like, you know what, I'm just going to get laid off and
Go
travel. Yeah.
That's a good trade-off.
Yeah. And so I did that for a couple of years, and that's when I picked up photography and videography, right? Coinciding with my travels, right? And then
So you picked up photography just out of like for fun?
no, I picked up videography
Videography.
out of fun
For your traveling.
for traveling, yeah. And then photography came with it, because a lot of people don't know, but they go really hand in hand. One's just a moving picture, the other one's just a not moving picture.
Yeah.
Right? Yeah. And so I didn't necessarily pick it up for traveling. Like I started traveling first, but I didn't want to travel and not kind of like document. Like nobody sees this stuff, but the reason why my hard drives are full is because I have like stuff from 2016 that like nobody doesn't see the light of day, right? Yeah.
So you started doing videography just for yourself.
Yeah.
And then at what point did you turn it into a business?
So I went traveling, did videography for about 2 years, the 2 years that I went traveling. And then after that, I decided, well, what happened was Instagram's a great tool for marketing, right? You put good work on Instagram, people are going to reach out for you for things, right? Like if they get a sense that you know how to take a picture, somebody's going to ask you to take a picture, and somebody's going to ask you to pay you for it, right?
Yeah.
So that's how it all started, right?
So you were posting photos on Instagram,
Correct.
and then someone just asked you, "Hey, I'll pay you."
Well, either somebody was just like, "Hey, I'm going to pay you. Like, do you do this?
Yeah.
Like, how much do you charge?" Everybody wants it for free,
Yeah.
but everybody will always ask you how much you charge because they want to sound like a cheapskate, right?
Yeah.
And so, sure enough, like I got
Sounds like me. It's like, yo, hook it up for free.
Can't do things.
I
that
saw
you're
you
good
look at
for
me
free.
like that.
I was like, yeah, sure enough, one thing led to another where, I'm looking online, like, how much is this worth? Or, like how much to charge or da-da-da-da. And like any business or anybody that's starting in some type of freelance business, like you undervalue yourself, right? Like I'm sure like for you guys,
First,
you undervalue yourself at first. But then you start realizing the value in what you provide, because it's all value proposition, as people would say in the business world. And then you start realizing that, not everybody can do what you do, and not everybody can do it as good as you can do. I'm not saying that I'm the best, but this is why people reach out to people like you or people like me for your expertise, right?
Absolutely. Yeah.
It's because they're willing to pay for you to do what you do, right?
And I think for sure, we talked about this a couple podcasts before, like at the beginning, you are selling yourself short because you're still learning too.
Right.
And once you get comfortable, you're like, never doing that again. Never
Yeah.
selling-
No. You get to a point where you learn how to value yourself properly for what you're able to provide, because I'm not going to walk in there and pretend like I know everything about real estate, or if that I've took the exam, or I'm part of the board, or I pay these dues or whatever. Like, I'm not going to pretend that, right? And a lot of people need to start realizing that, is that if you could do it yourself, you would do it yourself, but you can't,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
And so that's why you pay people to do it.
For sure.
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly.
So I'm assuming your photos on Instagram were really nice.
You haven't seen them?
No,
They're great.
I gotta go
They're
look
very
at them.
creative. Like,
Yeah.
they're like pieces of art. Like they're very crisp. Like a lot of landscapes, travel, headshots. It's
How-
pretty cool.
How did you then start? Did you teach yourself how to take these good photos?
So everything that I've learned was self-taught. And I'll tell this to everybody, that like YouTube is a great way to start learning things. The algorithm is phenomenal for suggesting you content that you're actually interested in, right? If you're truly interested in it, it'll show you exactly what you want. So literally you go through my feed. It's like how to take this photo, how to edit like this, how to shoot this kind of video, how to light this, how to do audio. Like it'll just keep on piling up. And then sure enough, my interest allowed me to just keep on tapping it, adding it to queue, make a playlist, blah, blah, blah. And I'll watch that shit day in and day out to learn more about how to get it all done. Nowhere near a professional level, but a lot higher than somebody coming right out of the gate, right? Yeah.
So you were taking photos and editing them and just for yourself because you wanted to see better and nicer images.
Correct. Yeah. Like if you see my first photo, it's terrible. Like it's absolutely terrible.
Probably like all my photos.
What is it?
I don't know. It's about me. Like, you know how people do that Instagram stance? I got my friend to take my camera.
Yeah.
They're taking a picture of me. I'm in this like weird stance that at the time I thought was cool. But now that I look at it and I'm like, that's so stupid, you know? Like, why was I standing like that? Yeah. But basically we're at the river, the Bow River, by Inglewood. And we're just chilling on the river. I'm like, yo, take a picture of me. And then they took a picture of me and I'm like standing super weird and awkward and stuff like that.
That's funny.
So tell me about your first like business, how you actually turned it into a business and realized you had something here, because it sounded like a passion project. You were just doing it for fun. I'm not sure, like, did you just quit your job that you had and just like, hey, I'm doing this full time? Like, what made you fully commit to the business? And
Yeah, so the first couple of gigs that I got were I don't even remember, to be honest with you. Like if I sat on my computer, I can look back and tell you exactly the date and what I shot and everything like that, right? But if I remember correctly, the first couple gigs were photo gigs, and they were just like this engagement shoot or this kind of like family portrait or whatever, right? And people would message me and like in my mind, I did want to break out into this industry, but I really knew nothing about it. Like, how do you communicate with people? How do you quote people? How much is your charge? How do you invoice people, right? A lot of everything in the beginning was not under my corporate company or my business. It was just like, yeah, just send me an Eve transfer, right? But it's not, as you know, the most proper way to start business, right?
I feel like a lot of entrepreneurs, though, the first
it's
year,
all
like, they don't know, like,
they don't teach you this stuff in school, right?
No, they don't.
Right.
You're
It's
learning
all-
as you go.
Yeah. Like nobody teaches you about incorporating, like, you know, the provincial side of it, the federal side of it, or accounting, how to do proper books, how to, you know, how to use your business account properly separate from your personal account. Like nobody teaches you how to do that.
No one.
Nobody teaches you how to pay yourself in payrolls so that, you know,
Yeah.
So
You
you
know,
get tax deduction from it.
yeah, exactly. Nobody teaches you that stuff, right? That's what you, like, again, that's what you pay an accountant for, right?
My accountant taught me the first year after. She's like, "What are you doing? You're doing it completely wrong. You need this." I was like, "No one tells you."
Yeah,
right?
it's kind of just like, here's what I have.
Yeah.
Let me know if you need anything. See you later.
Yeah.
Yeah, but it's a lot of research and a lot of people, like friends that are already in the industry, and I'm just like, hey man, like, I need to invoice this client. Like, I don't know how to do it. They're just like, oh, this is what I use. Or I would like ask them, I would outsource a job to them, or kind of like, you know, subcontract a job to somebody, and they're like, okay, I'll send you a quote. They send me a quote, and I'm just like, copy and paste, copy and paste, copy and paste, right? Like, oh yeah, that looks good. That looks professional. Send that out kind of thing, right? It's all like one huge learning curve, right? It's all internet resources and
oh, for sure. Yeah.
Yeah. So moving it into the business, what I was doing was I was doing photography and some video jobs.
Did you quit your job like that?
No,
Oh, you didn't.
I was working the 9 to 5. It was actually like 9 to 7, but I was also doing the 5 to 9. Right. And at first it was okay, because I love doing that stuff anyways, and I really don't go out. So I was just hanging out at my computer from 5 to 9 doing the side business or the side hustle or whatever. And then sure enough, this 5 to 9 became 5 to 10, 5 to 11. And I was working 2 jobs, right? And then at that point, you have to decide as an entrepreneur or freelancer or somebody who's working 2 jobs and needs more time to concentrate on the job that they really want to do, when's the time to kind of let that go, let one go and move one over. To be honest, it'd be nice to sit on like, you know, like a nice nest egg and just be like, well, screw this job. I love doing this. I'm going to do this, but that's not like the real world for most people.
Never.
Never. Never,
Sometimes,
right?
but
Yeah, so I would say 2 years ago, I started getting very overwhelmed with the 5 to 9. And then I started to decide like something's got to give, right? Like, do I take less hours? Do I make less money? Do I make just enough money to live so that I can actually concentrate on the business that I want to grow and I want to move forward? Yeah.
So that was 2 years ago.
That was about 2 years ago, yeah.
And then obviously you decided to.
Well, I did. I was just like, hey, this is my last year. And I stopped traveling, right? Because traveling costs money, right? You come back and, you know, a lot of your savings is gone. And then you kind of have to build that back up. And I was just like, you know what? I'm going to take this year off. Was it this year? Yeah, I'm going to take this year off.
Oh, what a great year to take it off.
Well, not this year, the last year.
The last year. Okay.
I'm going to take this year off and concentrate on working on my business during the winter time so that I don't have to go back to work, right? And that's like, even though my website's still not ready, that's like websites, processes, you know, templates, you know, email templates, and just refining it. Like, I still, to be honest with you, I still don't even have that together. Like, I've got like floating invoices right now that are just like, it's money in the air. I got to invoice them, pull that money back down, you know? Yeah.
Well, you're still fresh into your company.
Yeah, well, that's my freelance business, right?
Yeah.
And then I partner up with my friends, my good friends, and we start the studio, which is another business on its own, right? And so I need to, right now I'm balancing 2. So basically I still have 2 jobs, right? I'm trying to manage the studio and run the studio with my friends, but at the same time I need to cater to my freelance clients all in the same place, right? And so that's another thing.
Yeah, that comes with like time management and like using a calendar, having structures for the business, and allocating proper time for each one so that they're not suffering.
Right. And knowing, you know, if you work with partners, right, knowing who does what and what they do best, and let them do that so that you can concentrate on what you're going to do. And like project management, block scheduling, make sure that you get certain things that need to be done first before you're working on other things, because it just doesn't make sense, right? Yeah, so it takes, you're right, it's all time management. You just have to manage your time properly and make sure that what you're doing first is more important in the grand scheme of things, right?
Yeah, time management is something they don't teach you.
No.
Kind of thrown into that.
No.
I just learned that like 2 years ago.
Well, the busier
that was joining with Jay.
The busier you get, and especially with partners, right, you have to create structures. You have to be more in communication, and people have to see what your day looks like, and you have to manage your time because other people's time is important. These are things that I think you learn as your business grows as an entrepreneur, but there's no school for it. You know, the school is your business that you're going through.
Yeah,
right?
yeah. And maybe this goes for you as well. Like, I don't know where you came from before real estate, that like the growth is probably what's more important to you. And that's why I left my other job, right? Like there's no business growth, no career growth, no personal growth. And running your own business is a full-time job. It's a lot of work, and it's a consistent hustle, right? You're always learning new things, incorporating new ways to be more efficient and just get ahead of the curve. I don't like using that because of COVID, but whatever.
So you partnered with your friends also. Was that a decision that you decided, or like they approached you when you left, or like how did you decide that you wanted to partner up with your friends?
Well, we got together because of very common interests, right? And it just so happens that we all provide something that the other person doesn't have. And I don't know if you guys have that or if you guys know people that have that, but when that happens, there's just like synergy is a really crappy word too, but there's just like,
that's an awesome word.
well, I don't know. People use it in like different ways, and I'm just like, but like we work really well together, and we get like, I wouldn't have been able to be at this point without those guys, right?
Are these like childhood friends or just people you met? Like
no, they're not childhood friends. They're not the people that I used to hang out with. They're more, I've known one of them for very long time, but they're just like-minded people. And it's so important, like being with somebody who just gets it and working with somebody who just gets it. Like people never say don't mix business and friendship. I was going to say pleasure, but that's kind of, that's not right. They're all women. I forgot what I was going to say because I was too funny.
Don't mix business
and friendship. But like, it just like, they're my friends. And like, just during Thanksgiving, I was just like, they're like, what are you thankful for, Brian? I'm just like, I'm thankful for you guys. Like, I freaking love you guys, right?
Yeah. Dave never says that to me.
I don't say
that's because he doesn't mix business and pleasure.
Yeah, exactly. No, it's good though working with friends because like you kind of have a relationship once you kind of understand what the like strengths and weaknesses of each other, and you're actually able to offer feedback or like constructive criticism on things that it's actually for the greater good of the business.
Right,
like,
right.
It works.
Right,
so.
right. And if it was like a normal, but like an out of the blue kind of business partner, maybe somebody that is a little bit not more respectable, not that I don't respect them or anything like that, but like I shit on my business partners all the time just because it's like, you know, we got to get this work done, you know, like what are you guys doing? And I do it to be kind of an angle, but at the same time, it sends a message like we got to get on this. Do you know what I mean?
Totally. Who you surround yourself with, especially in business, I learned that a lot.
Yeah.
I've had a lot of failed businesses, and I wouldn't say all of it, but like the partners you partner with, it plays a key role, right?
Right.
In the longevity of the business.
Yeah, right.
Because at the beginning of the business, it's always, what do you call that? Unicorns and...
It's all rainbows and unicorns.
Yeah, rainbows and unicorns. That's Dave's line. But you don't really get to see the true business till like a year or 2 years after.
Right.
Because that's when true colors come out, right?
Right.
At the beginning, it's fun and everything.
It's like a relationship.
Yeah.
It's like the honeymoon stage.
Yeah. But then there's a time to get to work.
Oh,
and you got to get to work. Yeah.
So you guys are 2 years in now.
Well, this is our second year.
Second year?
Yeah, our second year. We started meeting twice a week, every single week last October. Mm-hmm. So this is our second year.
So what would you say the importance of weekly meetings is?
Even if you don't get anything done, it gives you the opportunity, the platform to like raise a lot of questions or concerns or things that need to get done to the table. Like it was a real struggle during like, you know, lockdown, where everybody was doing Zoom meetings because it's just not as effective, right? Like they get off line and they probably start playing video games or something like that, right? Like at some point,
they're in their underwear.
Yeah, exactly, right? Yeah. Like at some point, you need to whether they're doing work or not at home, you need to know that they're like, sometimes just having them in the other office, you know that they could be playing video games there too, actually. But the weekly meetings are important because synergy.
Yeah.
Yeah, we meet once. Well, we have meetings every Tuesday at 9:30 till 12:30.
Yeah,
And
yeah,
it's always in there. It's like concrete. Like it's a non-negotiable.
yeah.
So we have that in there just to kind of get the week going and started, and we know what's going on and stuff like that. So,
And I think you nailed it. It needs to happen because we didn't have that at the beginning. And, for business people that are starting with business partners, I feel like it's very critical to have those weekly meetings.
Mm-hmm. Even when nothing happens, something happens.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Even just because you're all there. I don't know if it's like spiritual aura energy or whatever. Even if nothing's on the docket, that's like a legal term or whatever. But something ends up happening, right? Somebody sits there, starts raising questions, start being like, we need this, we need this, we need this. Eventually you guys put into like an organizational structure, start checking off boxes and it needs, and like this, the Zoom calls aren't the same. Like it doesn't do the same.
It doesn't hit the same. Just like podcasts on video does not hit like Zoom videos, right?
Right.
We did one. Just wasn't the same. Right?
Yeah, no.
There's something with like human to human in person interaction, right?
yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. So weekly meetings, like if you're partnering up with somebody and you guys want to create something, you guys want to grow something together, like the weekly meetings are very important.
Totally. When did you guys get this space?
So
why'd you guys decide a space, and like was it during COVID or like what happened with this?
So what happened was the group that we're together, like the partners that I'm in with to do digital art.
Digital art, you mean?
We created a company to bring digital art to the art scene in Calgary. And we don't like really talk about it much because we're just like, that's why we've been meeting every single week. But that's where we're going to go. That's what we're going to do.
Digital art for Calgary?
Well, I like that you're asking questions. I really want to tell you about it.
Okay.
But it's
But
one
you
of those,
can't share it.
it's one of those things that when you see it,
Yeah.
you're going to see it and you're going to know
Oh,
it. Yeah,
okay. So you guys are working on, this is a different company, different from
Well, that's the reason why we got together. So I'll tell you why. So in October, I met up with my friend Mike and I was like, this is what I want to do. Mm-hmm. A week after, he brought in his friend Ivan, and Ivan is the tech guy. He's like, this is how we do it. And then we just started meeting twice a week, actually, every single week up forever until COVID happened, to like create the business model, how we're going to get it done. What are the technical aspects? Who do we need to partner with? Or who are we going to talk to? Everything kind of just falls together. I was going to say falls together when you have those weekly meetings, right? Mm-hmm. And so eventually, because we were meeting at Mike's office, right, which was near McCall, I was there twice a week, every single week, and he had space. I was just like, you know what? I'm just going to move my stuff here, right? I'm just going to start working here. So, because like I'm here twice a week anyway, right? So I started editing and working out of that place.
This is your freelance stuff that you're
This is my freelance stuff, right? And then up until March or whatever, when COVID hit, long story short is that we lost the office because we were subleasing it from a guy that didn't want to pay his rent anymore.
Oh,
Right. So we lost it. We also, long story short, kind of lost the podcast lease too, kind of under the same belts. Long story short, we lost it. And then that's when I got the great idea is to amalgamate them together, right? But it took us from April, which was like the lockdown, up until August to actually find a place. And when we found a place, it was this place. So that's how that all came together.
Got it. So you guys actually just moved in fresh in here since August.
September 1st, we moved
September
in.
1st.
Yeah.
Crazy. Well, it's a nice space. We've been here lots.
yeah.
And
Pre-studio Luma.
Pre-studio.
pre-studio, right?
Yeah,
Because when we've rolled up here, we're like, oh, we've been here like 10 times because we knew John.
Yeah. And I was like, like when you told me on the phone when you were in the parking lot, and I was like, damn, that's crazy, right?
Yeah, it's
and then when you told me how, I was like, oh man, that makes total sense.
Yeah. Yeah, it's because I showed up. I was like, "Am I at the right place?" Like, I had to call you just to confirm. Like, this is Bay 10, right? Like,
Yeah.
Bay 10. I was like, "Oh shit, I know this guy here."
Yeah, I called someone and I'm like, I'm so lost right now. They're like, no, you're at the right bay. And I was like, okay. I think it was Mike that picked up or someone. I don't know who picked up.
Maybe, I don't know. Yeah, it was great. It's just, you called the actual line.
I called the.
That's so funny.
Because I didn't have your number, so I
yeah,
Googled it.
yeah. That's so funny. I'm glad that worked.
Yeah.
I'm glad that worked. Someone's using it.
Yeah. So yeah, now you got the space. How would you say you've grown your business though, and got it to where you're at? Because it looks like you're doing very well.
Yeah, the growth has been really good ever since we started. Obviously getting into a new space where like nothing's really ready for you, there's a lot of work in like building the cyclorama wall, putting the desk together, like even networking and computers and lighting, like it's all work, right? But I didn't even remember the question. What was the question again?
What do you think made you guys grow so fast, made your business grow so fast? Because like maybe any advice or anything for someone that's in photography or videography, how did they get to that level?
To be honest with you, our first podcast client knew that we did this from before, not even starting here, and reached out to me because they're like, hey, we do this podcast. We want to move to the video format. They're like, can you help us out with that? And I'm like, yeah, 100% we can. Right. And back again, like how it grew so fast is like Instagram's a great marketing tool. Like people know about it. My contacts in the industry know about it. Right. Photographers, cinematographers, I just tell them about it, bring them to the space, show them the space, and word gets out, man. Calgary's a small place, man.
Yeah.
Word gets out.
So you would attribute it to utilizing social media, Instagram.
Yeah, we don't even really have like a real marketing thing yet, right? A lot of it's just me like, hey, we just got a new place, come check it out. Hey, we just got a new place, come check it out, come check it out. Like this spiel that I just told you guys, I've done like 100 times for people that walk through the door, right? Come in, sit down, turn on the podcast, listen to the podcast. You guys want to see the rest of the place? Go to the rest of the place, explain the whole ordeal to everybody so they kind of know full well what's going on here. And if they want to come, they come. If they don't, then they don't, right? But more often than not, people want to come.
Yeah. Like I actually heard about it from Mel Lou. Like she was just on our podcast like 2 days ago, but she was like, yeah, Brian has like a new studio. It's got a podcast room and all this stuff. I was like, oh shit, I want to see this space.
Yeah.
So it's evolved into podcast room, video footage. Initially you were just doing photos. Now are you like a marketing agency now? Would you consider yourself like
my friends would call it a creative agency.
Okay.
A creative agency, because I mean we want to do kind of not like a little bit of everything, but we want to make sure that if there is somebody that comes to us be like, hey, can you guys do this, and it involves either photography, videography, electronics, sound, lighting, or whatever, that we can do it.
Crazy. So
We can create that content or that product or that form of media for you, right?
So it sounds like you creative. Would you say creative
Agency.
Creative agency, and it's for businesses, for them to be like to utilize you guys for whatever aspect that they want.
Right.
Yeah,
Like-
it sounds like you're like a full service agency for creative development.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
it evolved to this.
It evolved to this. I didn't expect it to be like this. I was just like, like the cyclorama wall. 2 months ago, I was on a music video shoot and I saw one for the first time ever. I didn't even know what it was called, but I walked onto this music video set. I was just like, that's freaking cool. Right. I took a picture of it and I sent it to my business partners. I'm like, we need this. They're like, okay.
Where was it?
I don't know. I don't want to disclose it. Just competition. It's competition.
Okay, no worries. But yeah,
But there's a couple of them in the city.
yeah, because they're like I've seen them in a lot of music videos. It just looks like an infinity. Like
Yeah, it's like
background, right?
the one that I think about the most is that Omarion video with what's her name? The
Janae
girl
Echo?
that sings. Yeah.
Yeah.
And they're just like dancing
They're
and it just
dancing.
looks like white space, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. That's the one I think of.
What song is that? Yeah, I know what you're talking about.
Yeah.
That's a similar space like you have upstairs, right?
That's how you create that look. Yeah.
That white space.
Because it just looks like it doesn't end.
Yeah. But like what I realized was like, so people use these paper backdrops for photography, right? And that curve thing creates that look where it goes on like, you know, forever, right? Because when two edges meet, you create that line, which nobody likes, right? What the wall does is it does that, but it's a permanent structure is all it is, right? But yeah, that's how I found out about it.
That's cool.
Yeah.
I definitely want to get a photo up there. I was up there. Yo, this would look sick, right?
Yeah, I heard you on your Instagram story. You're like, white wall.
That's like, Jason, I miss you.
Yeah, so that, like, I mean, that's how that came about. Like, the podcast studio speaks for itself on its own. And then kind of like a lot
But you never had, like, you don't have a podcast, right?
No, I don't have a
But
podcast.
you guys just were like, hey, let's create a podcast room, rent it out to people. Like, that was just another idea to as your business evolved, right?
Yeah, so how the podcast started was my friend Donnie Wong was doing a weekly podcast show. He was streaming it live on IG, and he was posting his audio online. And I kind of took notice a few times. Like, I think he was like 6, 7, 8 episodes in. And then when I realized that this guy's legit, he's doing this every single week, right? I was just like, hey, let me come in and film your podcast, right? Because it doesn't make sense for me to like be like, go in there one time. And I want to create that workflow where I pack my gear, I drive to the place, I unpack my gear, I set everything up, just exactly what I did here to show you guys to film this, right? And create that consistency on if I ever wanted to film a podcast, this is the process that I need to get through to be ready for it and to be able to film it properly, right?
Yeah.
And so that's how it started. What happened was another good friend of mine, Steve Mix, saw what we were doing and wanted to capitalize on our experience of getting from 0 to however many podcasts that we did. What he did was he bought this board. He bought these 2 mics. I bought the other 2 mics. And then we bought a bunch of headphones. And
can you hit some of those buttons?
Yeah.
Here? That's all. Yo, we need this. That's great.
Does it have the reggae the reggae
I
horn?
don't think it has a reggaeton one.
Oh, you know, like the reggae horn? It's like
Bam, 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 bam. I love that one. You can just do that by like sound effects.
that's cool.
Yeah,
That's
so
creating value right there. For sure.
so he bought the board and he's like, hey, listen, I see a business opportunity here, right? Let's get you and your crew together. I buy the equipment. I find a lease. We set up the space. Use your expertise in creating 28 episodes or whatever of a podcast and start coaching people and selling people on other people who wanted to make a podcast but don't have the means, the space, the equipment, and the know-how to do it. And that's how it's called One-to-One was the media group that we created about it. It's called One-to-One Studios.
So you guys actually created this podcast to train people how to create a podcast.
Correct. We would onboard them, teach them best practices, show them how to publish it onto Anchor, which publishes it to like all these other different ones. What we were trying to do was trying to take all the guesswork out of creating podcasts so that people can just come in, hit record, and just talk, just podcast. Yeah.
Yeah, it's like a turnkey podcast system. Like if someone has an idea for a podcast, you can help them facilitate it from start to finish so they can just focus on the content.
Correct. Yeah. And we were doing really good. Like pre-COVID, I mean, only a few of them filmed their podcast, but pre-COVID, we had 9 ongoing clients. But then COVID hit and we're just like, okay, well, nobody really knew what to do when COVID hit, right?
Yeah. Well, yeah, COVID happened for us, and then we started the podcast, right?
Like this board and these mics were sold out.
Oh, it was so hard.
You couldn't buy it.
Yeah.
Like March, April, May, June, like you couldn't buy it. They were sold out everywhere because everybody was just like, let's do podcasts.
Yeah, totally. I see a great business for you in the future with the podcast for sure.
Yeah, we just need to figure out how to because we don't want to leave people with just their podcast, right? like creating a podcast is fine. The audio portion's fine. The video portion's fine. But like it costs money, right? And like we don't want to just leave you paying out of pocket to do your podcast. And so what we do when we sit down with clients is we create meetings based on strategy, and we create a media kit. And this media kit goes to you, and you take that media kit and you go out to whatever industry that you want to target, and you'd be like, hey, this is my podcast, this is how many people listen to it, this is how many people download it, this is how many people watch it, this is what our podcast is about. We'd love to partner up with you. We'd love if you can sponsor us. We'll give you a spot at the beginning, the middle, the end of the podcast where we divulge your product or talk about your product or whatever, right? And so we don't want them to pay out of pocket just to do a podcast. We want their podcast, because it's media and it's content, to help bring in revenue so that the podcast could at first pay for itself, but then after that, maybe more, right?
Yeah, like an income stream.
Yeah.
I was talking about that yesterday.
Yeah, Dave, I feel like Brian's trying to sell this to us right now. We were looking for that.
Hey man, to be honest with you, I'm not actually trying to sell you anything.
I know.
This is just what we do here. You know what I mean?
No, it's just funny because we literally had a meeting about it yesterday, and we're like, where do we go with this right now?
I'm like, let me talk to Brian about it.
Well, you guys are 22 episodes in,
Yeah.
and a lot of people don't even make it that far, right? So there's a lot of consistency in what you guys are doing. So maybe it's time to
Take it to the next level.
or benchmark it and just be like, okay, are we going to do this? Are we going to do it forever? And if we're going to do it forever, how are we going to capitalize on what we're doing here, right?
That's exactly what's been going in my brain.
Yeah.
Like, I'm like, what are we doing with this?
Yeah. We can talk about that after.
Yeah, we'll talk about that after. Back to your business here. What would you say the biggest things you've learned about business and yourself in the last couple of years, growing it to where it's at right now?
Oh man, that's tough. That's tough. I don't know, to be honest with you. I don't know how freelancers do it all themselves. Like they actually have to wear the hat of like 8 different departments when you run your own business, which is not easy, right? This is why there are these different departments in large corporations, right? Because you can't do it yourself. People do it themselves, and hats off to those people, because I mean, I hate invoicing people. I mean, the communication part's fine, but I just don't like the logistics side of business. Like what I like doing is I like taking pictures and I like creating videos. That's all I like doing, right? When it comes to everything else that has to do with it, like marketing, sometimes that's easy because it kind of does it on its own or whatever. But like the logistics, marketing, the business side of it, I don't like doing that stuff, right? And so I guess to answer your question, like if you can create a team to help you do that kind of stuff, then it's going to free up more time so that you can do what you love to do. And that's probably one of my best advices for people that are starting up their own businesses, is find the right people and pay them accordingly, right? Like, people want to do it all themselves because they don't want to pay anybody. But if you know you're good at only this thing and that's all you want to concentrate on, maybe it's worth thinking about paying people to do all the other stuff that you don't like doing so that you can just do what you love doing. Right?
Yeah, I agree 100%.
Yeah, they call it the PIE. So it's like the P stands for like productivity, and that's what creates the I, which is income, right? So you want to focus on what creates the most income per hour from the P and I, and then the E is everything else that you can do but you don't really want to do. So you should delegate that to somebody else so that you can focus on the P and I.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. Pie.
Yeah. Focus on the pie.
Focus on the pie.
Focus on the pie. And that's I think one of the hardest things for entrepreneurs to accept. When I was doing real estate, before I partnered with Dave, I did everything. And then Dave was like, when we partnered up, he's like, yo, I have someone to do all the paperwork. And I was like, no, we're not paying anyone.
I think that's the Asian in you, to be honest with you.
It's like, you don't want to pay anyone anything. Like, let's save money everywhere, right?
Yeah. You can't do it all though. And
No, you can't.
You only have certain time in the day, and like there's focusing on in the business and out of the business. And I find that you need to focus on your strengths, right? Like if if you're doing all these little things that you don't enjoy doing, it's going to kind of go into the side that you do enjoy doing. So you have to kind of delegate that stuff.
It's going to wear you down. Yeah.
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 It gets
And
tiring.
like I said, like I've got like, 20 invoices that I need to do and I haven't done them yet because I don't like invoicing. But good thing that we have a business admin that's going to start invoicing everybody, and it's worth paying them however much they want to get paid to get it done, right? For me, at least.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, it is for sure. And that's the only way to grow your business.
Yeah.
Right? Like,
Yeah.
because when you're in the business working on the back end stuff, it takes away definitely what you said, your front end business, right? So I totally agree with that.
Yeah.
Dave, do you have any other questions?
Trying to think here.
For Mr. Pham?
I wonder how Mel's podcast was.
You'll hear it.
Yeah.
You'll hear it.
Yeah. I want to listen to that one.
Yeah.
I guess what was the hardest lesson that you've learned from just transitioning from your 9 to 5 to your own personal business?
Can you repeat that question actually?
What was the hardest lesson that you've learned transferring from 9 to 5 to your own personal business?
That's a good question. I think if I had to say something about the hardest thing is that if you know that this is what you want to do it faster, right? Like I took way too long and like I wore myself down working 2 jobs. Figure out a way where you could get there faster, because when you're happy doing what you want to do, everything just falls into place, right? Like it's not that you're not going to run into struggles, but you start finding the solutions in easier ways and easier methods because you have the time to like think about it and figure out who can help you or, how you're going to do it to get to where you want to go a lot faster. And that transition isn't easy, right? And it's hard, but you need to figure out, like somebody said, like, if this is what you really want to do, right? You have to be willing to take a pay cut and start back down here to get back up here, if that makes any sense, right? Like you need to start, budgeting your money, like, maybe to get a cheaper car, a car that doesn't cost as much or whatever. Not that I did that, right? Because I that's why it was hard for me, because my transition was a little bit longer, right? But if you can get there faster, you're going to be a lot more happier, right? And if you're happy, then in my belief, everything just falls into place. Like this place, like I didn't even think I would be here. Like 2-3 months ago, I didn't think I would be here, but everything is just really falling into place here. It's a lot of work, right? There are obstacles and struggles to get here, but finding the solution and fixing those issues and those problems happened a lot easier than I thought it would be.
Passion.
Yeah.
Passion and happiness.
Well, I think it is like once you aren't doing once you're doing something that makes you happy versus like doing something that makes you happy, it's going to grow exponentially more because you're going to be putting your work and more passion into that project.
100%. Like it's as cliche as it sounds, it's so important.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's so important. And I would rather take a pay cut and be happy in doing what I'm doing than, making that money and having like a extra electric skateboard or something like that.
Which you have.
Yeah, which I have.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah.
Is there anything else you want to say for like entrepreneurs, people getting into business, starting business, too scared to get into business? Any advice or anything, last words you want to share to the listeners?
I think it's going to be hard. Like if it wasn't hard, everybody would be doing it. But if you're ever thinking of doing it, you should just do it, because working for somebody, if you're either 2 people, either somebody who works for somebody or you're somebody who works for yourself. And there's nothing wrong with that person that works for somebody if that's what you love. If you love being a cushy job, working 9 to 5, that's for some people. But for entrepreneurs, it's hard, but you surround yourself with the right people, and the right people will help you get through it.
Totally. Yeah, surround yourself with the right people. I totally agree on that one.
Yeah. Especially if you're an entrepreneur,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
Yeah, you're the average of the 5 people you spend the most time with. So.
Yeah.
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 And for you, I guess it's totally worth it and more fulfilling, right? And that's
Yeah, like-
that's the end of the tunnel.
Like at this point in time, I spend more time with my business partners than I do with like my group of friends.
Yeah.
Right. And sometimes it's hard for me to leave this place because my business partners are here.
Yeah.
Right. I'm like, oh man, we can get work done, but it doesn't even seem like work at that point in time. Right. I'm like actually hanging with my business partners that are my friends, and we're making shit happen.
Yeah, yeah.
Right. Versus if I would have gone go hang out with my friends, then not that it's not anything less or anything like that, but like I'm here to achieve a goal.
Yeah.
I'm here to create something and achieve a goal. And these are the people that I want to do it with.
Yeah.
Right. And so if these are the people that I want to do it with, these are the people that I'm going to spend most of my time with. That's just flat out the way that it is.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm sorry that I haven't spent time with, some of my friends and some of my friends' kids or whatever, but I'm here to create something.
Yeah.
And that's what I'm concentrated on. Right. I love what I do. And that's why I'm here.
Yeah.
If you want to come hang out with me, you guys know where I am. 403-483-5645, Mike Jones.
That's so funny.
No, you kind of nailed it with your friends too. Nothing with friends, but I think when you get to a point in your career and you're an entrepreneur, I feel like a lot of entrepreneurs go through this. Is like your friends that you hang out with or your business, and you kind of feel guilty, right, if you're not hanging out with your friends sometimes, right? But I think the older you get and like the more focused you are with your business, then you're kind of realizing like, hey, this is actually like you're working towards something, right? And then that's where a lot of your friends don't see you, right? Because you're so busy with your business. Then you got like your family, and then like you are trying to squeeze in friends, right? But definitely when you're passionate about your career and where your company wants to go, you need to be that laser focused, I feel, or it's not going to grow, right?
Yeah, like to be honest with you, this is the legacy that I want to leave behind, right? This is the generational wealth that I want to leave behind, and that's why I'm here, and that's why I do what I do.
It's a bigger purpose.
Yeah,
Totally.
it's hard because a lot of people don't understand because they don't have the same commitments and the non-negotiables for it. So, and like coming from a 9 to 5, going into like self-employed or business, like you can't think the same way as an employee to operate a business. So
It's tough because friends and family are just like, yo, do you want to go do this? And I'm just like, well, I do, but I don't.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
But I don't and it's because it's not because that I can't, but it's because I'm laser focused.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. There's nothing wrong with that. Nothing wrong with that.
Yeah, and it's just one of those things. You feel guilty for it because you can't help but feel guilty. But like honestly,
because you do care.
yeah,
right?
you do care.
It's just your priorities have changed.
Right. Yeah.
I totally understand. Yeah.
I think it'd be better once COVID is done because like then you can kind of throw events and then have your friends there and
Bring them to you.
Yeah, exactly. So then that way you can see everybody and it's like kind of you give time for everybody at the same time, and then after that, like you can get back to the grind because they know that you're busy working, right?
Right.
So
Right.
yeah,
man.
Yeah. Well, Brian, that was a good podcast there that we had. Learned a lot. We'd probably be using your services in the future. But yeah.
I didn't. To be honest with you, I didn't mean to sell you guys.
I joke a lot, man. I joke.
that's awesome. Where can they find you, Brian? Like your social media.
My handle is PHAMWOAW. That's FamWow. It's a little play on ShamWow.
Oh,
Somebody called me that once, and it just kind of stuck. That's my Instagram. Yeah, I mean, not that I put on anything else on any other social media channels, but if you guys find me on, that's my handle for everything.
Okay.
Yeah.
And where's this physical location here?
This is 7130 Fisher Road, Bay 10. Come in, make an appointment, come check it out if you guys are interested in anything. Don't come in here to steal anything. If this place is built like a rock, by the way, like you're never gonna get in. But I shouldn't actually say that because people are gonna try. People are gonna try. They're like, oh yeah.
Challenge accepted.
But yeah,
That's where we can find you then. Cool.
cool,
Awesome.
Cool.
cool.
We'll end it at that.
Thank you for coming on, Brian.
Thanks for coming on, and thanks for
Thanks for having me. It was a good time.
And this is Behind the Business.